Lord, thank you so much for this community, and thank you for your power and your greatness and your great ocean of love for Israel, for the land, for Jerusalem, for your people, for your firstborn, the Jewish people. Lord, you just want to show yourself strong. And Lord, I know that you love the Arab people. And Father, we're asking for those that have been so lost and so overcome by a hatred, that you would turn things around, Lord. You would write the rest of the story. So, Lord, here we are to petition you, petition heaven. Thank you, God. You're so big. You're so great. We love you. We love you. We love you. Ayelet is amazing. Thank you so much. She and her family, they live in Yad HaShmanah, the phenomenal village area just outside of Jerusalem, about 6 miles outside of Jerusalem. I love the fact that the Ark of the Covenant, if you remember when David was taking it in to Jerusalem, that when he got the Ark of the Covenant, and you can see how the oxen would have stumbled on the hills. Anyways, she lives right in that area where the Ark was. And Ayelet, there has been interesting developments even in terms of this big ballistic missile that was shot at Tel Aviv. Thank God for David Sling that took it out from Hezbollah. And even though we have, these great victory of, I was reading about how 1,500 or more Hezbollah leaders, by that incredible pager incident, phone incident, and yet the numbers are more like 40 to 50,000 Hezbollah leaders. So in one sense, it was a great victory, but there was so much more. So I'd love to hear from you, everything that you feel to share, including how your family are, including how this company of global intercessors can pray, with wisdom in this time. Thank you so much, Ayelet. Over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, can hear you. That's good.
Wonderful. So I feel in the last 2 weeks that unless I hear the news every single hour, something new happens. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Like if I miss the news for half a day, the size of the drama is unbelievable. And many times you hear people, as we walk through Yad HaShmanah, you hear people say, "Wait, you haven't heard that, this and this happened?" It's like things happen all the time at massive scale. It's really crazy. I want to say that the way the world depicts the picture of Israel is fallacy. It's a lie. It's unbelievable to what extent what you see is not what we see. Israel is stricken, I don't know how to say that word even, by rockets every day, hundreds and thousands of them. It's true that we have protecting shields. It's true that we have systems, but those systems are so expensive. The truth is, no country would have taken such a massive attack on a daily basis and would just accept it. And then when we do something like we did, or no one admits yet, but when we do something like we did with what we call beepers in Hebrew, or how do you call them?
We call them pagers. They're called
pagers. Pagers, that's the word. When something like that happens, the world goes, "Oh, terrible Israel, look what happens." It's crazy. It makes no sense.
Yeah. What about rocket barrage?
Right. It was a brilliant operation targeting specifically terrorists. And I want to say that we all feel in Israel that the terrorists are playing dirty. The whole thing is a dirty game. It's not at all not under the Geneva Convention of rules, how soldiers fight soldiers, none of that. When they entered into Israel and kidnapped babies and children and raped women, that is a dirty game. And the whole thing with the pagers, in a way, is a response to tactics that is just, in our opinion, smart, and trying to outsmart the enemy with the fact that we're so limited with resources. And after that, there was another once again an explosion with terrorists. The whole idea is to really shut down the management or the heads of the terrorists, and more than that, to scare young people into joining these terror organizations. So if young people are scared, even in Gaza, Israel already sees that young people are afraid to join Hamas or to join Hezbollah. That's the point, to make them understand that it's not worth joining these terror cells, and that's what they're growing. So I just want to say that now, today and yesterday and the day before, we receive a lot of phone calls from people from up north. Um, People are fleeing the north, and what happens is that it's a panic response. And I understand them completely. We completely understand them. But as of now, the government did not decide to officially evacuate all the north into the center, and to be ready for a war. Not yet, okay? Usually the government at some point says, that's it. We're taking everybody out before the attack. At the moment, the many people who are calling us and calling other hotels is people that are afraid and they just want to get out of the north. So at the moment, we decided not yet to open the doors for more people to come, because we want to wait for the right occasion in case Israel opens a full-on war. Of course, we will do everything we can and everything we have done until now to receive families. But we really need to use here a lot of wisdom and in who we take, because we have seen that sometimes, suddenly people come and you look at the addresses and they're not really in a place where they should come. We really want to preserve energy and resources for people who really need it. And at the moment, we're still waiting. And believe me, it's very difficult. It's very difficult to tell families, not yet, please wait. We want to work also with officials and to see who we can take. We know that once the families come to Yad HaShmona, it's a very tiring and it's a heavy responsibility to take for a lot of them. So we would like to do it in the right way. Israel is moving a lot of forces up north.
Yeah.
Our own son, Jonathan, is up north with his unit, and many young people and the men of Yad HaShmona already received what we call in Hebrew Tzav Shmone. Tzav Shmone is order 8 in Hebrew. And when you say in Hebrew order 8, it means a call for duty right away. So the moment somebody receives the order 8 command, either by phone or email, they have to come to their bases. So we already have people that received orders to come to the front. So obviously Israel is preparing for a war, but they haven't declared that yet. With negotiations and America in the picture and the UN and all that, of course, we all hope it's not going to escalate to a full-on war, but the feeling is, and especially with what happened today, I mean, they've been shooting more and more south into Israel.
Yeah.
We're facing something major. And it's a scary situation. We're already into this for a full year, but really it's a scary situation when we realize that another front and a big one is coming again.
Ayelet, I have a question about, I'm just suddenly wondering how to pray, because, obviously my heart, I'm sure it's for you too. Who wants to go into another ground invasion? So I'm saying, God, can you work it out that there is no need for a ground invasion into Lebanon, another Lebanon war, because we don't want to see the sons, these IDF soldiers injured or whatnot. So I don't know, what is the feeling then from your family, from the IDF, or what I mean? Do they agree with that? Like, here we go again, kind of thing. And then any news on the South as well, like Sinwar? I mean, it was a mysterious there about, was he hit, dead, not, forensic or DNA testing going on. I don't know if that was just some sort of rumor or something. Just thoughts on both of those. How do people feel about another ground invasion?
So first of all, you're totally right. Israelis do not want a ground invasion.
Right.
I can say, I remember, I have a memory from the time when I was 9 years old, and my father was in the first Lebanon war.
Right.
It was just as we came to Yad HaShmona. I was 9. My parents left Ramat Gan, moved to Yad HaShmona. I was just at the beginning stage of the village. And I remember my father going to the war. I remember him coming back. And
Mm.
when someone comes back from the front of a ground invasion, this is where you see the people hit and wounded.
Yeah.
Um, but really, from what he says, that's the way to really clear a lot of what they're doing. And we have to understand that Israel knows that the extent of how Hezbollah works is very similar to what happens in Gaza. There is a lot of infrastructure underground,
Ah,
underneath,
right. Okay.
underneath the ground. Now, if there were no civilians, if there were no villages, I think Israel would have struck them from the air without remorse and would have destroyed a lot of these tunnels. But that's not how Israel acts. And in a way, it's a big question. And you hear people saying, what, why do we care that there are villages of, you know what I mean? They're saying, why should we care that there are people who are innocent in their villages and underneath them, there are
Mhm.
infrastructures of
Right.
tunnels and roads and cells of those terrorists? Why should we just bomb them? Why are we sending our troops inside?
Yeah.
But the truth is that I think that the majority trusts that the government knows what it's doing. And
Okay.
it's scary. It's like going into a beehive, into a hornet's nest, really,
Yeah.
of terrorists. And I can say that I don't want to even think about that. I know my son and my son-in-law and another son-in-law, I know they're all going in. And we really hope it's not going to be like what happened to us in Lebanon, because in Lebanon we went um, far inside, we lost a lot of people. And when Israel got out in the first Lebanon war, basically, the terrorism returned to Lebanon. You know,
Yes.
and just to understand, Lebanon was an amazing country.
Yes. It
Lebanon was
was.
the Europe of the Middle East.
Yep.
And all the Christians fled out. There were a lot of Christians in Lebanon that they all left. And it's left with the Muslims and terrorist cells that took over completely.
Yeah. Beirut was called the Paris of the Middle East.
That's
I mean,
right.
it's such a tragic story. It really is about how this, at the bottom line is this ideology of hatred. It's just, it's obviously demonic. For those of us that know and love the Lord, we recognize there's no other explanation other than this demonic hatred that would make you, put rockets inside of a civilian home, build tunnels, as opposed to, hey, let's build better schools, universities. let's
Yeah,
let's have a
yeah,
brighter future for our children, as opposed to teaching them to hate the Jewish people. So it's
right.
yeah,
And
incredible.
so much money is
So
being
much
poured
money.
into Gaza and
Yeah.
has been poured into Gaza. There are all these files by the UN, massive amount of money, billions of dollars has been poured
Absolutely.
into Gaza. It all went into terror work, and it's a terrible thing. And
And by the way, American taxpayer money right there.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah,
a little quick comment on the UN, because, as I understand the previous Lebanon war, the UN was supposed to manage a buffer zone. A buffer zone, no guns, no ammunition, no nothing in this buffer zone between Lebanon and Israel. And they've just renewed their contract, the UN has, for this buffer zone. But I mean, obviously, they're not really doing their job. Is this easy to
yes,
say?
exactly. And they allowed, little by little, they allowed a movement of Hezbollah into the buffer zone. And now they're saying in Israel that the mistake was that Israel didn't immediately respond very harshly
Right.
toward that. Israel was angry and kept rejecting, but not responded violently toward
Ah,
the cross of the buffer zone. You're right, it's a big thing. Now, I
yeah,
don't know if you've seen that Netanyahu wants to go. Netanyahu actually
yeah.
said he's going to speak at the UN. And we look at this. He's an amazing speaker. I don't have to tell you. I think you all know. And we're just feeling like what he's going to go there. I mean, the Iranian president was speaking there about how Israel is doing a genocide in Gaza just a day ago. A day ago, and Israeli people said, Iran is telling Israel that Israel are killing civilians. Iran is a murder country all over the world, all
Yeah.
over the world. So I don't know what hope we have from the UN. No one in Israel believes the UN. They hate Israel. They stand against us and always did. But still, I think Netanyahu will use his persuasion ability not for the UN delegation or people, but really for the people who are watching the screens. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think he is going from the latest I've heard. Either tonight he's flying out or tomorrow, but he is an incredible speaker, absolutely incredible. So as I've seen it, this is my vantage point. He's much more appreciated, honored in the United States than he is in Israel.
Completely. Everybody was speaking about how he was accepted at the White House with
It was a record-breaking
White
standing
House
ovation in Congress. It was a record-breaking standing ovation speech.
No, it was unbelievable, really. And for everybody in Israel, it was a boost of hope and just comfort to see that, see the Americans, because the feeling is that we're isolated. It's a very bad feeling.
Now, Yada Shmana is, I'll put it in the chat again, where she lives and manages this phenomenal piece. Honestly, it's like heaven on earth. I cry when I get there. I have a nice little weeping session for a half an hour, just because
I'm glad to hear. We don't feel that way. We see the issues. We deal with the issues. So
well, for somebody that's come into the land, it's probably a little different, you know. But tell me this: how is it? All the families that you've been helping that were, you know, out of their houses and whatnot. How's it going in that sense? Was anybody able to go back or no?
Yes, 2.5 weeks ago, the last families that stayed with us went back to Kibbutz Zikim. Kibbutz Zikim was hurt. It's a kibbutz right by Gaza. Their houses were already, whatever they needed repair was already repaired. But because we had families with children, and it's very close to Gaza, and because it's a constant bombing area, the government allowed them to stay with us all the way almost to the end of August. So we had a goodbye evening for them just 2.5 weeks ago, and it was probably one of the most touching times. I didn't stop crying. I was supposed to speak. I couldn't stop crying because what they said, some of those mothers, what they said, they know we're believers in Jesus. We've spoken with them the whole time. What they said was, it's as if they spoke out of the New Testament and they don't even know it. Like they said, you know, you have given us fresh water in times when we were in need, and comfort to our souls. We felt like we're coming to a place of rest and comfort. And some of them are broken. I mean, we have families that are planning to divorce. You have to understand, when a family unit takes a hit, it's a big hit. It's not just the emotional, oh, I'm sad or I'm shocked from what happened. Usually it's a crisis for the marriage. I mean, some of them, you know, don't want to stay together. Some people, you know, there's all these things we've been seeing and dealing with. And we were able, through funds that came from believers around the world, to allow them to have a home in Yad Shmona to speak to their hearts. And they've heard the message. They've heard and they were touched by it. And those women were crying as they were sharing what they felt. And one of them said that she has a very hard time going back to the kibbutz.
Wow.
Because she said the kibbutz was struggling a bit socially even before. Now you have to understand that even before October 7th, you know, there's all these issues. You know, I don't have to tell you, Israel is under tension between left and right and religious and secular way before. Do you remember the major demonstrations?
Yes.
So some of them said when the 7th of October happened, we were already, you know, rethinking as a family, what should we do? And then the whole crisis happened. They ended up in Yad Shmona, which they never heard about this place. And they met believers, and their children were with our children, and they ran to the shelter with us a few times, and it changed their lives. And look, no one said we're believers in Jesus, but we already see people opening up their hearts, and that's amazing. That is something I've never seen before to such a scale.
Wow. I'm gonna